Okay, so some people might have already known that movement science practitioner is about to be held in April. And we would like to introduce this new series with this video. Today, we are glad to have Lincoln with us. He is one of the developers of movement science practitioner. And he's going to answer a couple questions in order to let everybody know more about this course. And Lincoln, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, hello everybody. Yes, I'm Lincoln Blanford. I am Head of Education for Movement Science. That means I'm involved in the design, development, and delivery of the education products, and that includes kinetic control, performance matrix, and movement science practitioner, plus a range of other things that we do offer for physiotherapists, personal trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, and other movement professionals around the world. Been with movement science for about 10 years, although I've been exposed to their sort of their principles and their ways. So Mark Comerford and Sarah Motram's approach for probably about 20 years now, and have applied that within performance settings, but also alongside clinical professionals. So that's a little bit of background.
Okay, thank you, Lincoln. And I have collected some questions that my friends and my colleagues are curious about. And let's start from some easy question. Okay, so first one, okay, Lincoln, how many series are there in movement science practitioner? And how long will it take if we want to finish the entire series?
Okay, so what we're looking at with the movement science practitioner course really is there's three component parts. So I'd say there's three parts of the series. Initial part that looks at introduction to principles. It's then focused on the sort of the low back trunk region. We then move into looking at different components of adding in the upper and lower extremities in the other two components. So three parts. And in terms of how long that would take to progress through, you can do this over 3 weekends. So we're looking at doing 2-day blocks 3 times. Or we're also looking at doing a 5-day block, say maybe starting on a Monday and running all the way through to a Friday. So there's a few different ways to do it in terms of what we're looking at for 2021.
Okay, so there are 3 series in movement science practitioner. And the first one is movement fundamental. And the second one, we will focus on integrating the lower limb muscle synergies to the whole body movement pattern. And in the third one, we will focus on upper limb muscle synergy. And I remember that before we attend the advanced 2 and 3 classes, we need to attend the movement fundamental first, right?
That's correct. The idea is that the movement fundamentals really sets the scene for what happens next. It supplies the sufficient basis, the principles of how we're then going to consider and approach changing people's movement in the next 2 parts.
Okay, great. And next question is, who can take this course, and will attendee get any certification after the class?
Absolutely. Yes, certification, let's address that one first. So yes, individuals who attend the course will certainly be receiving certification as identifying they are now qualified as movement science practitioners. Now, who could attend? Well, really, that is most movement professionals. So if you have a recognized qualification that allows you to practice with clients, whether you're a fitness professional, personal trainer, or you're a strength and conditioning coach, that's great, and that'd be highly relevant for you. You could also be that you're coming in as a physical therapist, physiotherapist, because you want to, again, have a different way to observe and interpret movement that I think the MSP series will give you. So it's not exclusively for fitness and performance. You could also use this within, I guess, a clinical aspect as well, if that is your appropriate background. So it's quite broad in terms of who can attend the course. Ideally, it's targeted towards those working for performance, but you don't have to be doing that.
So basically, I would say that if you are interested in movement, then you can and you should come to our new course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that, yeah, I mean, the thing is with movement as well is it's universal. It's similar to a language in a way that we all use it. We use it to interact with the world. So if you are working with clients, it's probably a good idea to consider movement within that interaction because they use movement all the time. So if we can change it, we can probably do beneficial things for them within our practice.
Sure. And the next question is that, let me see that. Oh, this question I've heard from my friends very often, and I believe lots of people have the same questions. Is that what can we learn from the movement science practitioner?
This is really key then. So what's actually in the course? Skills and the application of principles. The principles are the idea that we can read and interpret people's movement, how they move. And from that, we can draw some ideas around which muscles they are relying upon. So which muscles they're using more than maybe some others. The course introduces a muscle classification model that allowed you then to observe and interpret movement and then relate it to that muscle classification model, as in saying, we think that this is an efficient use of these particular muscles for this particular task or exercise. It then allows you to improve your skills of observation and cueing because you can make very subtle, fine changes to your client's movement by interpreting how they move, comparing it to the muscle classification model, making a decision, is this something I want to change, yes or no? And if you do, it gives you skills about how to change it. So it's a application of those particular principles and doing it in a way that we think is different to what's typically delivered when many, say, fitness courses. They're great because they really focus on performance and getting you the ability to sort of produce, I guess, good workouts would be one way to say that. With MSP, it adds a different level or different layer to that by giving you maybe a finer resolution of how people move, interpreting that, and then changing that. So I think that's really sort of key in the course.
Yes, and personally, my favorite part among the kinetic control or movement science practitioner is muscle classification. With this model, we can easily find out which muscle is more likely dysfunction, and we can know how to adjust and boost our client's movement by this model. Yes, it's really helpful.
I'd like to add a little bit more to that, which is muscle synergies, how muscles work together is really complex, and the science is still emerging. It's still a debate about which way to go with this stuff. However, if we're working with clients, we need a model to help us, to guide us through that challenge, that complexity of how muscles work. I think that many fitness professionals are very interested in muscles and anatomy and the biomechanic aspects of muscles. So this course does add something, again, I think different to what they typically get in other courses. It's always a good thing to consider that models are not reality, and they're also going to be always challenged, and the model, so a nice way to think about this, the model we use is always on trial. It's never accepted going, this is the perfect model. But this model is really useful. The one we're using in this course as a way to try to navigate this challenge of working with people's muscle synergies. So I think that's really one of the strong elements of the course. And I would agree with you, Hunter. It's also one of my favorite components of what CMS do.
Yes. And next question is also a common question from my friends. And that is, what kind of clients can we apply the skill we learned from the MSP to?
Yeah. The principles within the course, I think, are applicable to most individuals. Because again, going back to the idea that movement is similar to a language, that if everybody moves, then we can change that movement and that's beneficial for that client, then there's no client that's not important for. I guess to be a bit more exact, a bit more specific, It could be that somebody wants to improve performance and they've done a very structured program for a period of time, but there's still something they're not quite achieving. So this course, by looking at people's muscle synergies and how they move, may add that additional component that they're not getting from what they've been doing already. It could also be that they're working with individuals who are interested in maybe yoga or Pilates or other sort of wellness approaches. So again, this focusing on how they move may allow them to achieve those postures and shapes that they've been finding difficult in the past. So it might just be getting that extra secret ingredient that they've been missing that this could supply. So many clients, and really it's not designated just for performance or just for sort of rehab or anything like this. It is a across the board approach, and any trainer or any movement professional could add this to their skill set, and if they could then apply it with different clients. So it's very broad.
Yes, I believe that, because I use this framework on many kind of clients. It includes the athletes, weight trainer, or even elderly. All these clients, I could use this scale to them.
Yeah, great stuff. I mean, it's certainly with the older client, movement becomes ever more precious. It's something that supports their independence. And if there's something we can do to make movement more robust, that has real value. So yeah, that's a great group to work with this.
Yes, yeah. Before attendees take this series, should they require basic knowledge of anatomy or kinesiology first?
It would help because we do explore the differences between muscles. So muscles that are maybe multi-articular compared to those that only cross single joints. And also the neurophysiology of muscles and how they recruit. So having a sound understanding of anatomy and the actions of muscles will really help you get more from this course. There is not a point where we're saying that you must show us this knowledge before you arrive at the course. So you'll get more from it if you have it, but if you haven't, you'll still benefit from the course, and then maybe that learning can come in post-course, which I think you'd be inspired to do anyway from what we deliver within those days. But certainly if you're coming in with a more comfortable understanding of the difference between muscles and their actions, that will help you get more.
Yes, so it would be great if attendees can have some background knowledge and they will get more from this course.
I think so. And it's it probably makes the course more enjoyable because you're not sort of having to think, oh, I need to remember this bit of anatomy and what this muscle does. You can focus then more on the content being delivered at that time.
We only got a few questions there.
Great.
Wow. Okay, so next question. Oh, I love this question. What concept would you like to communicate to practitioners with this course?
I think what we're trying to put across is that there's value in movement, and how people move, we feel, has influence on their performance, their long-term health. We have a concept called movement health, which relates to the idea that you can rate and interpret movement to judge the state of a movement system. So how somebody moves reflects their ability to have choice in what they do in life and choice in how they achieve those different outcomes of the day, how they get out of a chair, how they move across the room, how they walk down the street. And I think what this course does, it identifies that there's lots of ways to achieve those different outcomes. And the training that we then give to clients helps them have more ways to move. So that's one of the key concepts is movement health, and we can look after movement health through considering how people move and changing how people move if we see it's appropriate. Key is also this ability to read and interpret movement. And it's the ability to see very subtle and fine changes in how people are moving and to interpret that and to change it if required. So there are some of the key concepts: movement health, which is very broad, and then the actual skills of reading and changing movement based on the classification model we touched on earlier. Is there anything else in there that we think is key there, sort of, Hunter, that we want to sort of add?
Yes, our movements are variable. It emerges from the interaction of task, individual, and environment factors. So the most important thing is how we move depending on our task. Like pick up something from the floor. We could just squat down, or we could lunge down, or we could bend our low back to achieve it. But if we always use the same strategy to perform this task, then regardless of how heavy the stuff is or how far it is from us, our movement is inefficient because we can't change the proportion of muscle activation of the synergies. And in this course, what we have learned is how to read and change kinds of movements to improve their efficiency. Yeah.
I think building on that as well, Hunter, is what I'd add in is it might be the first time that some individuals are exposed to that model you've just described, that dynamic systems model, this relationship between what somebody does, where they do it, and who's doing this particular task. And that from those interactions that people find a solution, they find a movement solution to that challenge presented by what this task requires and where it's been performed in. So is it on a day when it's raining, you need to run down the street? It could be very different to when the floor is dry. So you might use a different movement strategy to do that. So that might be a new element in terms of what the course delivers as well. And also, you've just touched on the idea there of if you consistently move in the same way, that can sometimes be a raiser of injury risk. And there is evidence to sort of explore that's been around for a while now. So this idea that if you consistently do the same thing in the same way, the same tissues get stressed. And what we'd really want to do is find more ways to do that same thing so you can spread the work out across different tissues. So that might be, yes, something that's related to injury risk, and also might be a new element that's delivered in this course for some people that maybe have not seen that particular way of thinking before.
Yes, we can move to the next question. Be one of the developers of movement science practitioner. Which part impressed you the most? And what is the most fascinating thing about movement science prediction?
So if we think what really is the key element of the course, it still goes back to taking something quite abstract, something quite conceptual like a muscle classification model, but being able to do something with it, being able to actually apply it clinically or within a performance setting that actually changes how people move. So I think it's that connection between a model and movement. It's the relationship between something conceptual and then something concrete that actually has a influence on people's performance and injury risk. I think that's it. I think that really boils it down to the key element for me, that you've got something that exists on paper, and then finally it's making a change in somebody's life.
And though I'm a weight trainer lover, I still believe that strength training is not the only solution to clients' problem. For those young people who feel low back discomfort during sitting or bending forward, I don't think there are two weaknesses to sit over there or just bend their low back. It could be, but it's usually not in that case. And here I want to clarify that we are not saying that strength training is the last thing we need to do. We are saying that we need to consider different aspects of movement. The interaction between muscle synergies during other loading demands is another thing we need to think about, and it's what we will learn in this class.
So strength training is key if you want to have improved force production. So we can be very clear about some of the benefits of strength training. And having gone through a strength and conditioning education course myself for a number of years, I'm obviously an advocate of that as well. What we want to say is that, well, yep, strength training will give you capacity in tissues. It will give you capacity in terms of force and the ability to produce force quickly and impacting performance. And if we don't do that, we're probably not going to perform at our highest. And there's, again, good evidence to support this relationship. However, to consider that every problem is a problem of weakness or lack of force production is probably missing a lot of subtlety of a lot of things that exist below force production. So certainly, if it's a case that we experience problems during non-strength type tasks, it seems to be a bit of a mismatch between delivering then strength training for something that doesn't appear to be related to strength. Mm-hmm. But I think we've been living in a time, in a sort of period of time when strength training has been the go-to answer, because for a lot of things, it will probably help. But there's probably some things it might not help and maybe actually sort of could be taken as the other way. So having some way to distinguish between, is this a strength-related problem or not, would be very valuable. And I'd sort of direct people towards looking at the performance matrix testing system to do that in a very specific manner. With this course, we do think about strength training, but we also think about the relationship between muscle synergies. And one thing that happens in strength training is that because there's so much effort required, all those muscles have to work together. So it's very hard to discriminate between placing bias on one muscle compared to another if we're doing strength training, because everything co-contracts. So sometimes we've got to peel it back. Sometimes we've got to take the load away to allow us to place discrimination on one muscle synergist more than another. Not isolating, but placing emphasis on muscles. And strength training often doesn't allow us to do that. If strength training is what you know, unfortunately, every nail you see looks like it needs to be hit with a hammer of strength training. But there's other options out there, and I think this course offers some of those other options.
Mm-hmm. Yes, last question. In which country will movement science practitioner be held in 2021? We know MSP is going to be held in Taiwan this April. Is there any other countries also has this new series this year?
I think 2021 is going to be a fascinating year all round for everybody. I think it's the year, hopefully the year when we start to emerge from the current situation. And it means that more face-to-face courses can happen. We're delighted that this course is running in Taiwan, and it's really going to be the first sort of full delivery of the course. And we're really looking forward to how that goes and then the feedback from it and where we take it next. So at this time, that Taiwan course is our principal focus for MSP. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be looking at sort of taking it elsewhere around the world. Again, once we gain feedback from participants and also from the tutors as well.
Mm-hmm. So we are lucky to become the first one to hold this course.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. I mean, what we see with Taiwan is kinetic control has been a massive success. So the clinical pain-focused aspects of what CMS do, which is kinetic control, has always been very well received within Taiwan. So launching MSP in Taiwan is, I think, a really good choice, because we're already delivering to individuals that have a good sort of sense and familiarity with some of those principles already. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why Taiwan was a great choice.
I think we have finished all the questions. Yes. And before we end this video, I think, is there anything you want to say to people who are interested in MSP?
I think it will change how you practice. I think it will change how you see movement on a daily basis, and it will allow you to evaluate some of your current practices and allow them to sit in an expanded framework that each exercise is for a purpose, and you can be clearer on what that purpose is.
Thank you, Lincoln. Okay, so at the end, if you are interested in movement and want to know more about the muscle classification model, or you want to know more about how to read your client's movement, then you shouldn't miss it. All right, it's time to say goodbye to our audience. If you like this video, please subscribe my channel and don't forget to sign up our new series, MSP. And again, we are happy to have Lincoln with us. Lincoln, thank you for your attendance. Let's say goodbye to our audience.
Hunter, thank you very much for today. Goodbye to everybody. Great to have the chance to describe and talk about MSP, and it'd be great to see you on that course and get some feedback from how that's gone.
Okay, see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Catch you later.